All right, everybody, welcome to the Blockbuster movie review. Today we are reviewing X-Men Apocalypse. Movie just came out this past Friday. As always, I have my co-host here with us. Richard, go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hey everybody. It's been a while.
Yeah, it's been a while. It's been a while. And Richard right now is just going to be coming to us via video. I'm sorry, via just audio, no video this week. I just want to remind everybody that we do have the open Q&A. So if you're watching this live, if you want to drop us a question, please feel free to drop us a question and we'll answer it during the show. And as always, Richard, go ahead and give us your thoughts about the movie.
It was okay.
Okay. Just to let you know, people, we do these videos live and we don't discuss before we get in the hand. So that reaction was genuine.
Yeah, it was literally okay. Like I walked out of the theater, and when I got done, it's almost like I felt like I was watching 2 hours of exposition, and then the last 30 minutes was like a battle that never really to me ever felt like there was anything in peril. Like it was like, oh, let's show us how cool CGI can be half good but terrible at the same time. And it just kind of, I don't know, it didn't do anything for me. And that was the thing I was a little hurt about, because it did nothing. Like, the people who were in the movie are accomplished actors. It almost reminds me kind of how like the Phantom Menace was. It's like these are accomplished actors in these movies, but yet the final product just comes out to be like, eh. I mean, it's not bad. It's nothing to run home about. Like, it literally is just a average movie. And to say this is either the 8th or 9th movie in the franchise, there's only really like 2, maybe 3 of the movies that I actually thought were pretty solid. Otherwise, the rest of them are kind of like forgettable. Like, I wouldn't even consider owning any of them. Like, yeah, I walked out of the theater and it was okay.
Yeah, out of the X-Men franchise, I only own 2 of them because I thought those were the ones were worthy of watching ever again. And that's First Class and Days of Future Past. But like you said with this movie here, I was like, really? That's it? There's nothing else to it? I don't want to say disappointed, but I was like, man, you could have done a little bit more.
Yeah, it was the fact that this, you know, what scares me is like I think Fox is putting themselves into a corner. Like, how do I put it? It's like they're putting themselves into a corner, whereas like how Fantastic Four kind of like threw that movie out there, and it's like, oh well, we screwed up. So how are we gonna fix this one now? And it's like Apocalypse is like that dude in the X-Men franchise. Like he's the guy who, like, if you as a child remembered the cartoon at all, or even the comics, it's kind of like he's the one who kind of like was the voice of doom, and it just kind of, it fell flat. Like I never thought Apocalypse was threatening. Like, not one time did I actually feel like Apocalypse did anything or showed anything, you know. And this is the same performance from the guy who was just the most likable character in the last Star Wars movie. So I mean, yeah, it was meh. Like, I walked out of the theater and I didn't feel numb. I just felt nothing was there. Like, if you,
I felt very unsatisfied.
Yeah, it was, and it was one of those things where you go into the movie like, okay, well, you know, I know critically you say it's terrible. All right, and this is probably not going to be fair from a comparison standpoint, but Batman v Superman. All right, Batman v Superman, I can see why people hated it, but I didn't hate it. I actually thought it was okay, but let me finish why I say that, because there are elements in that movie. Let's say, for example, if you cut out like the third act of the movie, pretty much, if you cut that entirely out and just focused on Batman and Superman's quarrel, the movie would have been so much better. This movie, I don't think there's really anything you could cut out or rearrange or move that could actually make it a better movie. I just think it was literally, it was like a ham-fisted story to say, hey, well, we need to throw Apocalypse in there because, the Avengers, they got Thanos coming. So we need to throw this in there, show our big bad off and show how to do it. And then, Marvel can kind of be like, oh, well, yeah, we're going to take a page not from that book and kind of keep working on our own thing. So it's just like, even if I go back and look at the movie, there's nothing in it that actually makes me want to say I want to watch it again. Like,
well,
Batman v Superman. There are a few scenes where you're kind of like, you know what? I could actually go on YouTube and watch that one scene over again. There's nothing in this movie like that. There's not one scene.
There is one scene I would like to see again, and I'll get to it in the spoiler section.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, but this movie here, like you mentioned, the Thanos and Apocalypse comparison, it kind of makes me wonder if this wasn't the end all to their whole X-Men saga before they decided to just reboot the whole thing 100%. Then it's kind of like you said, it's a head scratcher. Like Age of Apocalypse is pretty much the whole doomsday of the X-Men. Like it's pretty much their end all of be all.
Right.
But with this movie, he didn't seem menacing at all. And like the threat to human wasn't really there. It seemed like his big agenda just to recreate the world. It just didn't come across to me as like this is something fearful. Like even though he destroyed a city, you didn't see any humans running from the city. Like we didn't get no chance at all to escape.
Yeah. I mean, well, it's like they wanted to show technical prowess and they wanted to show this grand scale of destruction, but it really never came across like that. It's like I was watching like a Roland Emmerich movie, and it was like, it's just you just see things be destroyed because they are supposed to, not because it mattered at all. Like it felt like you were going through the motions of showing quote unquote apocalypse, and then pretty much it becomes a team movie at the end of the day. It's like, oh, okay, well let's show everybody one time how all their powers are supposed to work, and then okay.
Yeah, I can feel it like that. Yeah, let's just go ahead and roll into the spoilers here. So that one scene that I could watch again is the scene that I thought actually did pretty well when they're showing Wolverine held captive inside of Stryker's base, and he was escaping. I think
okay, but here's the thing about it, man. It's like that one scene is probably, like you said, the only scene, but even then that's not enough. It's like, yeah, they showed Wolverine in his like carnal state, which was actually kind of awesome, but because I remember when the trailer for Age of Apocalypse came out and they had that one last shot of the trailer where you see Wolverine's claws come out and you're like, oh, I ain't gonna lie, I actually had the Fresh Prince face where I was like, oh, like I actually got excited. But then when the scene actually plays out in the movie, it's kind of like, it feels like it's a ham-fisted cameo. It's like it was a cameo they threw in there because they were like, well, we got to throw Wolverine in here somehow. And that was it. And even in the movie, they're like, oh, we're never going to see that guy again. And it's like, okay, we understand that that's supposedly Hugh Jackman's last movie is this next X-Men movie, but it's just kind of like they're, the way this movie felt, in all seriousness, it felt like The Amazing Spider. I hate it as much, but it felt like the age of the second Spider-Man movie. The Amazing Spider-Man 2. Like it just felt like accountants were like, wait, people like Apocalypse, boom, throw them in there. It's like people like Wolverine, boom, throw them in there. It's like they just threw in the little nuggets that like the fan is supposed to like, but not really throwing in like a cohesive story. Like this, there was it was, and then there were like so many sequel hooks, like the fact that Quicksilver. Oh, you know what? I take that back. That scene was awesome. The Quicksilver scene.
He was rescuing everybody from the mansion. Yeah. That was pretty awesome. That was awesome. Now, did you catch the little Easter egg that they threw in there, a little quip at themselves they threw in the movie?
All right, go ahead. Tell me what it is, and maybe I think I caught it, but I'm not sure.
Okay, so it's the scene where Nightcrawler, Jean Grey, and Scott Summers are leaving the movie theater. And if you look at the marquee, if you look at the marquee said Return of the Jedi, and they're talking about the movie and how it wasn't as good as the previous ones. And then Jean Grey says the cardinal line. Well, you always know that the third movie usually sucks.
Yeah,
died.
but that doesn't. Here's the funny thing about it that works against them in this case, because out of the new rebooted timeline, this is the third movie.
Yeah, the third movie.
So they kind of hit themselves in the face with that one. You know, it's like, haha, it was supposed to be funny, but out of all the new movies, it's like First Class, I'm not gonna lie, it's like probably like is a phenomenal comic book movie, period. Days of Future Past was good. It wasn't great, but it was good. This movie is just like, come on, guys. Like, really? Like, I'm trying to think of any of, because it's like, I know we want to talk about spoilers, but it's like, I was so uninterested in it when I left. You know what? Here's the other thing, like with Magneto, right? Like, I know they went away with who the Four Horsemen of the Apocalypse were supposed to be, but Magneto's like backstory and his turn back to being evil, it was believable to a point, but then at the same time, it kind of was like, I wish they could have dug a little deeper in that. And then they kind of like, you know, threw in, you know, they pretty much just retreaded the scenes from First Class. Like, literally, it was a throwback scene. Like, they didn't reshoot anything. They just took the actual clips and threw it back into the movie again. It's like, come on, guys. Like, there are it just, the movie comes off as it's being lazy.
Speaking of spoilers, you know what really got to me, and you mentioned it, how they just decided to make their own Four Horsemen of Apocalypse, and you know, you had Archangel, who was one of the Four Horsemen,
right?
He stayed all the way to the final end. You saw Exus Corp, and I'm just thinking, wait a minute. So the next movie's going to have Mr. Sinister in it, and I was thinking, you know, Mr. Sinister was one of the Four Horsemen, right?
Right.
I just want to know what comic book. You said it best yourself the last time we were talking about comic movies. You have to hit the not the I believe button, but just throw out the everything that you've read before, as it's not going to be a one-on-one translation from the comic book that you've read to the movie that you're watching. So with this movie, I was like, what storyline are they borrowing from? Because if you look at all the movies that we liked, they've borrowed from comic books that are already out there.
Right.
So we're thinking like Days of Future Past that you mentioned, that literally borrowed from the comic book series called Days of Future Past. First Class, I don't know. It was just a good movie. Even when you go back to the Winter Soldier, Civil War, Age of Ultron, not the greatest comic book adaptation, but still they borrowed from Age of Ultron. Even Batman vs. Superman was Frank Miller's Dark Knight Rises, the comic book that they borrowed from. It just seems as though that the Age of Apocalypse is out there. People have read it. People know it. They've even made cartoons about it. You could have borrowed a little bit from that, maybe, because just thinking like Havoc is supposed to be older than Scott Summers. That I don't know where they got that from. They just decided to throw that out there. Quicksilver's supposed to be this good guy now. Like, I don't ever remember that. Mystique is actually helped training the X-Men. She's not Mystique at all. Like, her name doesn't even fit. Like, if you know what the word Mystique means, she's not being Mystique at all. Like, change her name to Kind Lady Who Shows Up because we need her in these movies. That's, I mean,
but you know, but you bring it up with the exact point. And that was another thing that kind of annoyed me with this movie, is that they really like tried to make Jennifer Lawrence relevant in this movie.
Like, Mystique's whole aura in the comic book series is that she only does things that makes herself feel good. That's why she's Mystique, and she really hasn't done that yet. Well, I take that back. In Days of Future Past, she displayed that excellently. But in this movie here that we just watched, she didn't do that at all. She did basically Charles Xavier's bidding this time around. And I'm sorry, I'm going on a rant here, but I was like, yo, this really isn't working for me. I've thrown out everything that I believed and read and loved as a child. It's like, okay, throw it out the window, accept these movies as they are. But this is just not.
It doesn't work. It doesn't work. It doesn't have the same soul, like, well, like some of like you said, the other comic movies that we've seen. they have general treads that are the same, but the reality of it is that these movies have heart. They typically have something that draws the character in, and they focus on the development of the character itself. This literally just feels like an accountant was like, this needs to happen, this needs to happen, this person needs to be here at this point. You know, we need to show destruction and everything's okay at the end. Like that's how the movie felt. It doesn't really feel like there was anything that grabbed me in the course of the movie. The only thing emotionally, like I said, that grabbed me in the movie was like the scene with Magneto and his family. That was about it.
Yeah.
Other than that, it really, there was nothing. Like I never felt anything in the movie. I never got to a moment where, like, you know, when you're watching some other comic, like for example, Civil War, like when you watch that and you see like when Captain America and Iron Man are like actually about to go blow to blow to each other, and it's like you feel like their whole relationship is staked on it. Like the two characters who's supposed to have been butting heads, which were Magneto and Professor X, like those are the two who should have kind of been like the grabbing the anchor points of the story. And they're trying to ham-fist Mystique into this thing, and it just doesn't work because over the time of the last three movies, it's like First Class was really based on Professor X and Magneto, the two of them in their story and how they are, you know, they want the same thing, but they go about it in different ways. You know, and then the second movie, it's in a similar vein, but then they try to start throwing Jennifer Lawrence in there because, let's face it, she sells tickets.
No doubt.
And then in this movie, it's like they still try to do that, but then the whole dynamic of what brought that universe to the forefront in the first place is no longer there, because how many times did you really see Professor X and Magneto actually interact? Like, they did that psychic link stuff, but I mean, other than that, it really wasn't there. So it's just the things that are supposed to be the anchor points of the story, they're not there. So it just feels like it's someone's just saying, oh, well, we need to put money here, so this is where it needs to go. And, you know, it's just...
Last thing I want to get out before we get into our movie ratings is I want to get out the fact about how DC and Fox believe that only one big epic fight needs to happen in these movies, and it's a superhero movie. I need that to stop. I need to actually see my superheroes fight a little bit more throughout the movie versus I sit through 2 hours and 15 minutes of movie just to see 15 minutes of superheroes actually fight on the screen.
Right.
If you're watching this, just please have my superheroes fight a little bit more throughout the movie.
Totally agree there.
So let's get into the rankings. I'm going to go first this time around.
Go ahead, man.
This movie, because this one is not the worst comic book movie I've seen this year, but it's definitely not the best. So I'm going to give this one a C, because I believe I gave Batman vs. Superman a C-.
You know, I'm gonna go the opposite, because I'm gonna be honest with you. The difference between this movie and Batman v Superman is the fact that I think I understand what DC wanted to do. I think they just executed it poorly. This movie, I think they tried to have masterful execution, but yet had no idea of what they actually were trying to accomplish. I never felt the villain was a threat. Apocalypse looked like Ivan Ooze.
Power Rangers.
So I mean, the movie never ever came across like there was anything really important. And then this is a nitpick, but Apocalypse was supposed to kind of like tower over his other horsemen. And he's kind of the smallest person in the bunch. It kind of just makes things strange. So with that being said, this really feels like it was a movie, to be frank with you, made by accountants. And I'm hoping that this movie, it's like you'd hate to see a property fail, but I just hope that, given the fact that this is probably what the either 8th or 9th movie, and I only really like 1/3 of it, you know, I think it's kind of like, hey, let's kind of do something differently here, guys. So I'm going to give this movie a C-.
All right. So the only thing we can really hope from X-Men in the future is maybe get a rated R Wolverine movie. That's that.
Yeah,
Hopefully
and
not.
then but again, I think we need to stop focusing. Not we, but like I think the rating is important from a content perspective of what's in it, but it should not be the driving factor behind how the story is executed. Because to be honest with you, do I think Deadpool could have been as good as a PG-13 movie? I think it's possible. But I think to actually encapsulate everything that's needed, it had to push that envelope. I think with the Old Man Logan movie, I think that has to kind of be there too. But it's like, don't do gratuitous violence because of reasons. Like, even if you think about it, even the scene that we just saw in this last movie, Wolverine's claws going through people like with spraying blood places and all sort of stuff. Like, it was like I think that's a taste of what we can expect going forward. But even then, it still just kind of like was like it worked because it wasn't like blood was everywhere. It's just kind of like, it was like a rabid animal just going through the hallways, killing everything in sight. It worked. But I just hope that it's not like you're gonna start seeing people's like guts start flying out and just random like chunks of body just flying all over the place because of reasons. So yeah. So I'm hoping this winds up playing out better, but if not, in Marvel we trust. So
in Marvel we trust. In the Disney Marvel we trust.
Right. Yeah. There you go.
So I think upcoming next we have the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, and
I'm dying to see that.
And what's the other one? Independence Day Resurgence is due in June.
Did you see the other trailer for it?
Independence Day or Mutant Ninja Turtles?
In their Independence Day.
I saw the one where they actually showed this huge alien walking around.
Oh, I didn't see that one.
Oh, my bad. Spoiler. Yeah.
Wow.
So
okay.
I'm kind of interested to see the Turtles movie because that one took me by surprise last time around. I thought that was going to be garbage, but it actually was pretty entertaining. And I'm excited to see Bebop and Rocksteady and Casey Jones played by the Arrow, Oliver Queen. So I'm kind of interested.
I'm interested in that one enough to be like, hey, I think they're trying, even though I thought the last movie was just okay. I think they're trying to at least get the tone of it right. I think they're going in. It was like, what kind of movie this is. Please don't expect Citizen Kane with like 4 artists named Mutant Ninja Turtles. Like, this is not what this movie's about. This is literally just you go in here, you laugh a little bit, and you just see like some fight scenes with CGI characters, and then that's it.
And that Independence Day, at first when they announced it, I was like, yeah, this is total trash. No Will Smith, garbage. I don't care if you got Jeff Goldblum and the crazy guy. You need Will Smith.
I'm interested. I'm not sold on it yet, but I'm interested. But I don't know if you've seen the new trailer for Star Trek Beyond. Have you seen?
Yeah.
The second trailer makes that movie look good. That first trailer was totally a mistake. They should have not done the Beastie Boys for that first trailer.
All right, so next week, can we plan for Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles?
I guess, yeah. If that is next week, then yeah.
All right. Well, once again, I want to thank everybody for watching. This was a quick show. Usually the movies we don't like, the show usually is a lot quicker. So I do apologize. Maybe next week we'll have a little bit more to talk about because it's another nostalgic 80s movie coming. 80s cartoon coming to the big screen. So we're both 80s, 80s born, 80s babies raised in the 90s. So, we know a lot. We know a lot about the pop culture in the 80s and the 90s. So hopefully we'll have a little bit more to talk about. But until then, y'all stay breezy.